Emily had always been drawn to music. From the time she could remember, the sound of an instrument, whether it was a piano, guitar, or even a violin, was more than just something to listen to. It was like a language she could understand better than anything else. The soft hum of the strings or the way the piano keys felt under her fingers made her feel like she was connected to something bigger than herself. Music wasn't just a hobby to her. It was her passion, her escape, and a way to express herself when words weren't enough. She grew up in a small town where everyone knew each other, and life was simple in many ways. People would walk their dogs in the morning, sit in the local cafe to gossip about the weather, or chat at the bus stop about who was getting married or having a baby. It was a town where nothing big or exciting seemed to happen, but to Emily it felt like the perfect backdrop for her dreams. Her mother worked long hours. She had to, because life wasn't easy for them. It was just the two of them, and Emily knew her mom had sacrificed a lot to make sure they got by. She wasn't the kind of person who asked for help or showed any sign of weakness. She was strong, independent, and always did her best to make sure Emily had what she needed, whether it was a warm dinner or a place to practice her music. But even with all the love and support Emily's mom gave her, she didn't really understand her daughter's obsession with music. It wasn't that she didn't want Emily to pursue her dreams, but Maria, the mom, had always been more practical. To her, it made sense for Emily to focus on something more reliable, something that could give her a good future. Music, as much as it made Emily happy, didn't seem to fit into that plan. Music didn't always pay the bills, and that worried Maria. "Emily, you need to think about your future," her mom would say gently. "You're talented, yes, but you have to be realistic. Music is wonderful, but it won't put food on the table when you're older." These words, though said with love, always stung. Emily didn't want to disappoint her mom, but at the same time she knew music was the only thing that made her feel alive. She spent countless hours practicing in her small bedroom, the only space she had to herself. Every evening, while her mom worked at her second job, Emily would lock herself in and play whatever came to mind. She'd start with the piano, play a few chords, then switch to the guitar or the violin. She had an ear for music that amazed anyone who heard her play, and she was determined to get better every day. It wasn't like she had a natural talent for everything. No, it took years of practice, long nights of frustration, and more than a few moments when she felt like giving up. But Emily wasn't one to quit easily. Her mom had taught her the value of hard work, and that's exactly what she did. She worked hard to make her dream a reality. Still, deep down, Emily had one thing she desperately wanted to do, to show her mom just how talented she really was. The problem was her mom never really saw it. Sure, she heard the music coming from Emily's room, but she wasn't there for the long hours Emily spent perfecting every note. She didn't know how much effort went into playing a piece over and over until it felt right. Maria only saw the finished product, and even then, she couldn't fully understand why music was so important to her daughter. One evening, after a particularly long day, Emily overheard her mom talking to one of the neighbors. They were chatting in the living room, unaware that Emily was in her room nearby practicing. She couldn't help but overhear the conversation. "You know," Maria said, "Emily's been spending so much time with her music lately. I'm glad she enjoys it, but I worry about her. She's not going to make a career out of it, not in this town. There's no future in music unless you're really lucky." At that moment, Emily's heart sank. The words, though spoken in concern, felt like a punch to her chest. All these years of practicing, all the sacrifices she'd made, none of it seemed to matter to her mom. The reality hit hard. Her mother didn't believe in her dreams as much as she thought. To her, it was just a phase, a hobby, nothing more than a passing interest. The conversation replayed in her head over and over again. As much as Emily tried to push it out of her mind, it lingered, nagging at her. She couldn't let it go. She knew her mom loved her, but she also knew her mom wasn't really seeing her. Maria couldn't see the hours Emily spent practicing. She couldn't hear the music the way Emily did. She didn't understand that music wasn't just something Emily did. It was a part of who she was. It was in that moment, lying awake in bed, that Emily made a decision. She was going to show her mom, no, not just her mom, but everyone, that she wasn't just some girl who liked to play music. She was serious about it. She was going to prove herself. Emily wasn't going to let doubt, her mom's, her classmates, or even her own, hold her back any longer. She decided to enter the town's annual talent show. Now, the talent show wasn't exactly a big event. It wasn't like some grand competition that would bring the whole country to watch. But in Emily's small town, it was one of the few occasions when people got together to celebrate something other than the weather or the latest gossip. And for her, it was the perfect opportunity to show everyone, especially her mom, that she wasn't just playing around. She had real talent, but even as Emily made the decision, a part of her felt nervous. She wasn't sure what her mom would think. What if Maria thought it was silly? What if everyone laughed at her, like they had in the past when she mentioned wanting to do something serious with her music? Still, she couldn't back down now. The talent show was coming up, and this was her chance to show her mom that she wasn't just dreaming. She was working towards something. Emily began practicing even harder. She picked a piece on the piano that was challenging, something that would really showcase her abilities. She knew it wouldn't be easy. There were days when her fingers ached from playing for hours, when she wanted to throw in the towel and give up. But those were the days that pushed her to be better. She didn't want to tell her mom just yet. Not until she was sure. She didn't want to hear any more. "It's a nice hobby, but..." comments. She wanted to prove her mom wrong. She wanted to show her that music wasn't just a passing interest. It was her future. As the day of the talent show grew closer, Emily felt a mix of excitement and fear. What if she wasn't good enough? What if she messed up in front of everyone? But no matter how much doubt crept in, she kept practicing, kept believing in herself. After all, she was doing this for her mom, for the one person who had always been there for her, even if she didn't understand her music. The days leading up to the talent show were filled with both excitement and unease for Emily. As she walked through the halls of school, she couldn't help but overhear conversations about the event. Some of her classmates were talking about their own performances, discussing songs they'd be singing, dances they'd be performing, or jokes they'd be telling. Everyone seemed so sure of themselves, so confident. Emily's nerves began to surface again. She had never been the most outgoing person. While her classmates seemed to shine in the spotlight, Emily was content to stay in the background, quietly perfecting her music. She had always been more comfortable in her own space, tucked away with her piano or guitar, letting the music speak for her. But this time, it wasn't just about playing in her room. This time, she would be on a stage in front of an audience with everyone watching. And not just any audience, her mother would be there too. Her mom didn't know yet that Emily had decided to enter the talent show. She didn't want to tell her mother too early because she wasn't sure how she would react. In the past, when Emily mentioned music as a serious career, her mom had always seemed a little distant. "It's just a hobby," she would say. "A nice one, but a hobby nonetheless." Emily didn't want to risk hearing those words again, especially after everything she'd worked for. She didn't want her mom to think she was just doing this for attention. This performance wasn't about that. It was about showing her mom how much music truly meant to her. But as the days went on, Emily started talking to her friends about the show. At first, she was careful. She mentioned that she was thinking about signing up, but wasn't sure if she would go through with it. However, as the sign-up sheets were posted and the deadline for registration drew closer, Emily knew she couldn't back out. She had made the decision, and there was no turning back. She walked to the bulletin board one afternoon and saw a crowd gathered around it, all buzzing with excitement about the upcoming show. Emily hesitated for a moment, feeling that familiar nervousness tighten in her chest. She had already heard whispers from a few of her classmates, some who were laughing at the idea of her performing at all. She had heard them joking about her quiet nature, the girl who always sat in the back of the classroom with her head down. They didn't think she would make it past the first round. As Emily stood there watching the others sign up and share their plans, she felt a little out of place. Most of the students had already decided what they were going to perform. There were a couple of talented singers, a few dancers, and even one person who was planning to tell jokes. Emily felt a pang of doubt. What if she wasn't as good as she thought? What if her performance wasn't good enough to make an impression? She was used to practicing in private, not in front of others, and certainly not in front of a whole crowd. But deep down, she knew that this was her chance, not just to prove herself to her classmates, but to show her mom in the most undeniable way that she was serious about her music. After standing there for a few moments, Emily took a deep breath and walked up to the sign-up sheet. Her hand trembled slightly as she wrote her name on the list, committing to the show. When she got home later that evening, her mom was in the kitchen, preparing dinner. It was the usual routine. her mom working late, always doing her best to make sure Emily had everything she needed. Emily stood at the doorway for a moment thinking about how to tell her. "Hey, Mom," Emily said, trying to sound casual. Maria looked over at her, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "What's up?" I signed up for the talent show," Emily said, hesitating just a little. "I'm going to perform." For a moment, her mom just stared at her. There was a flicker of surprise in her eyes, but she quickly masked it with a smile. "The talent show?" Maria asked, raising an eyebrow. "That's great, sweetheart. What are you going to do?" Emily bit her lip. She had been thinking about what to say. She didn't want her mom to think she was just doing something for fun. This was serious to her. She wanted it to be more than just a hobby. "I'm going to play the piano," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "I've been practicing something special. I want to dedicate it to you." Maria's expression softened, and for a moment Emily could see something like pride in her mother's eyes. But then just as quickly it was replaced with concern. "That's wonderful, Emily," her mom said, but there was a hint of hesitation in her voice. "I'm sure you'll do great. But remember, honey, it's just a talent show. Don't get too carried away. There's no need to be disappointed if it doesn't go as you hope. It's just for fun, okay?" Emily nodded, but inside her heart dropped. Her mom had said the same thing she always did, reassuring but not fully believing in her. Emily didn't want to disappoint her, but she also didn't want to let this chance slip away. She was going to prove to her mom that this wasn't just a nice hobby. This was her future. She had to show her that. Over the next few days, Emily worked even harder. She stayed after school to practice in the music room, playing the same piece over and over until her fingers started to ache. She knew that her performance had to be flawless. She didn't just want to play well. She wanted to make an impression. She wanted her mom to realize that her music wasn't something she could just brush aside. But as the day of the talent show approached, Emily started to feel the pressure mounting. Her classmates were excited to show off their talents. They had planned their acts for weeks, and some had even rehearsed with their friends. Meanwhile, Emily was going to perform solo. She didn't have a group or a backup plan. If she messed up, there would be no one to save her. A few of her classmates had made fun of her when she mentioned her plans. They couldn't understand why someone so quiet would want to perform in front of everyone. "You're really going to do this?" one of them had said, laughing. "You're just going to sit at the piano and play for everyone? Good luck with that." The teasing stung, but it only made Emily more determined. She had spent so much time practicing, putting every ounce of energy into getting better. She knew she had the talent. She just needed to trust in herself, to not let the doubts of others stop her from going after what she wanted. As the night of the talent show finally arrived, Emily found herself backstage, nervously adjusting her dress. The other performers were getting ready too, some pacing around, others chatting with friends or practicing their routines. Emily sat quietly in a corner, feeling the weight of the moment. Her heart was racing. She glanced at the audience in the auditorium. Her mom was sitting in the front row, looking around the room. She looked tired as usual, but she smiled when she caught Emily's eye. For a moment, Emily felt a little bit of relief. Her mom was there, supporting her. No matter what happened next, that was something she could hold on to. But then the nerves came back. What if she messed up? What if she couldn't pull it off? She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and reminded herself why she was there. This wasn't just about the performance. It was about showing her mom, showing everyone that she was serious about her music. She wasn't just playing because it was a hobby. She was playing because it was her future, and she was ready to show it to the world. The days following Emily's decision to participate in the talent show felt like a blur. Time seemed to move both slowly and too quickly at once. Every day she woke up early, ate a quick breakfast, and then rushed to school. But as soon as she could, she would sneak off to the music room. That room had always been her sanctuary, her safe place to escape from everything around her. And now more than ever, it felt like her only chance to prove herself. Emily wasn't just preparing for the talent show. She was preparing for the moment that could change everything. Her chance to show her mom and everyone else that music wasn't just a passing interest. It was a part of her, something she could no longer ignore or hide. It was time to make her mark. The piece she had chosen for the talent show wasn't easy. It was a beautiful, complicated piano piece, one that required precision, emotion, and an understanding of the music that went beyond just hitting the right keys. Emily had spent hours practicing it. and hours turned into days. Every time she made a mistake, she would go back and play it again. Sometimes she would get frustrated, slamming her hands down in frustration when the melody didn't come out just right. But she kept going, pushing through her self-doubt. There were nights when Emily would stay up late long after her mom had gone to bed. Her mom worked late shifts at the diner, so Emily had the house to herself in the evenings. She would sit at the piano, the soft light from the lamp beside her casting long shadows across the room. Her fingers would move over the keys, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, as the music filled the quiet house. But no matter how hard she practiced, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that her mom didn't understand. Maria was always kind, always supportive, but there was a distance in her words when it came to Emily's music. Emily had heard it all before. Music is fine, but you need a solid career, or it's a nice hobby, but don't rely on it. The comments weren't cruel, but they stung. They made Emily feel like her music wasn't truly seen for what it was, a passion, a calling, something she could do for the rest of her life, and that made her even more determined. Emily didn't want to be someone who just dreamed of something. She wanted to be the person who went after what she loved, so she put everything she had into her practice. It wasn't just about the talent show anymore. It was about something bigger. She was showing herself that she could do this. She was showing her mom that she wasn't just a girl who liked to play music in her bedroom. She was serious about it. It wasn't all easy, though. Every time Emily practiced, she could hear the voices of her classmates echoing in her mind. They had laughed at the idea of her performing in the first place. They didn't take her seriously. Some had said things like, "She's too shy for something like this," or "She's not really the type to stand out." Their laughter echoed in her head, and it made her second-guess everything. Was she really good enough? What if they were right? What if she wasn't cut out for the spotlight? But then, in the quiet moments when she was alone with her music, those doubts started to fade. The music became her escape. The piano was her friend. It was always there for her, a constant in her life. She knew that if she could just focus on the music, she could block out all the noise, especially the noise in her head. One afternoon, as Emily was practicing in the school's music room, she heard a soft knock on the door. She looked up, surprised to see a teacher standing in the doorway. "Hey, Emily," the teacher said with a warm smile. "How's it going?" Emily stopped playing and wiped a bead of sweat from her forehead. "It's going okay. Just practicing for the show." The teacher stepped into the room and glanced at the piano. "I've heard you play before," she said, her voice thoughtful. "You've got real talent, you know that?" Emily felt a flush of warmth spread across her cheeks. No one had ever said that to her before. Not like that, not so seriously. "Thanks," Emily muttered, feeling a little shy but grateful for the compliment. "You're welcome," the teacher said. "I can tell you've been working hard. Don't let anyone tell you that you're not good enough. If you love this, then it's worth it. Just keep practicing and you'll be amazing." The words stayed with Emily for the rest of the day. It felt good to have someone believe in her, especially since she didn't always feel like her mom fully understood. The teacher didn't know the long hours Emily had spent practicing in silence. She didn't know how much pressure Emily was feeling. But somehow, hearing someone outside of her own head say that she had real talent gave her a little more confidence. Still, Emily couldn't shake the nerves. She wasn't sure what it was. Was it the pressure of the performance itself, or was it that she knew her mom would be watching? Whatever it was, Emily could feel her stomach twist into knots every time she thought about the talent show. The night before the big event, Emily couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, tossing and turning, her mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. What if she forgot the notes? What if her hands shook on stage? What if the audience laughed at her? And then there was the bigger question. What if her mom didn't see her the way she wanted her to? What if, after all this, her mom still didn't believe in her music? What if, despite everything, her mom thought it was just a hobby that would fade away eventually? She tried to push the thoughts aside, reminding herself that this was her chance. This wasn't just about showing her mom that she was talented. It was about proving to herself that she could do it. It was about making sure that no matter what happened, she didn't let fear or doubt stop her from going after her dreams. In the morning, Emily barely had time to eat. Her mom gave her a quick, distracted smile as she left for work, not knowing how nervous Emily was. Emily kissed her mom on the cheek and grabbed her piano music, her heart pounding. She tried to calm herself as she walked to the school auditorium, but the nerves were still there, twisting in her stomach. When she arrived at the talent show, everything seemed a blur. The lights were brighter than she expected, and the audience was larger too. Backstage, she could hear her classmates talking, some of them rehearsing their lines or warming up their voices. Emily stood quietly in the corner waiting for her turn. Her hands were shaking slightly, and she wiped them on her dress, trying to calm down. But then, as she looked out at the crowd in the auditorium, she saw her mom sitting there, looking around the room with a tired but warm smile. Her mom didn't know that this was the moment Emily had been working for, the moment that would change everything. She didn't know how much Emily needed her to believe in her. And just for a moment, as Emily stood backstage watching her mom in the audience, she felt a sense of peace. No matter what happened, this was her time. She was ready. The moments before Emily's turn on stage felt like an eternity. Backstage, she could hear the murmur of voices, the shuffle of feet, and the soft rustle of costumes as other performers prepared for their acts. She was trying to stay calm, but the nerves were creeping in again, tightening in her chest. Her hands were cold, and despite the excitement buzzing in her stomach, she felt like she might pass out. It wasn't even the audience that made her nervous, it was the thought of her mom watching her from the front row. It was a feeling that she couldn't shake. Emily wanted her mom to understand. She wanted her to see the hours of practice, the dedication, and the effort Emily had poured into her music. She wanted her to realize that music wasn't just something she did on the side, it was who she was. But now, in the middle of the talent show, Emily felt like her dreams were balancing on a knife's edge. One wrong note, one small mistake, and it might all fall apart. Her heart pounded as she heard her name called over the loudspeaker. Emily's breath caught in her throat. The spotlight was waiting for her. It was time. She walked out onto the stage, feeling the heat of the lights on her face, making her vision blur for a moment. The auditorium was silent, every eye trained on her. She could feel the weight of the crowd's attention pressing down on her. She quickly made her way to the piano, her feet almost moving on their own, as if her body knew what to do even if her mind was spinning with nerves. The grand piano in front of her seemed massive, like it was towering over her, but she felt strangely at home with it. The silence stretched on for just a beat too long, and Emily realized she hadn't even sat down yet. Her legs felt stiff as though they weren't really her own. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her trembling hands. The music had to start now. No more time for hesitation. With a slow, steady movement, she placed her fingers on the keys and began. The first few notes were shaky, the sound a little off. It wasn't what she had practiced. Her heart skipped a beat. She almost stopped right then and there, but she couldn't. She remembered the way the teacher had spoken to her, reminding her to keep going, to trust herself. She remembered the hours spent in her bedroom, the music that had become a part of her. This wasn't the time to give up. Not now. Emily took a deep breath, let her fingers move with the melody, and continued playing. Slowly, the notes began to come together. The piece started to flow, the music growing richer and more confident with each passing second. Emily's hands, once shaking, found their rhythm. She could feel the music in her chest now, a vibration that seemed to echo through her whole body. Her mind focused solely on the piano. She could see the keys, feel the way the music swelled and ebbed like an ocean, rising and falling with each phrase. She wasn't thinking about the crowd or her mom. She wasn't worried about making a mistake. She was simply playing. As the piece reached its peak, Emily's fingers danced over the keys, the notes soaring into the air. It felt like the whole world had disappeared and there was just her, the piano and the music. In that moment, Emily was free. Free from the doubts that had haunted her, free from the fear that had almost held her back. She was doing it. She was showing them all. The final notes lingered in the air, a soft, delicate echo. Emily's fingers gently lifted off the keys, and the auditorium fell silent for just a moment. Then, as if the silence had been waiting for the right moment, the crowd erupted into applause. Emily's breath caught in her throat, but she didn't know what to do. She just stood there, her heart racing, her hands still hovering over the piano. She hadn't expected this. She hadn't expected such an overwhelming response. The applause seemed to go on forever, and Emily felt tears stinging her eyes. She quickly wiped them away, embarrassed, but a part of her was so relieved that she could hardly contain herself. It wasn't just the applause, it was the feeling of having accomplished something real, something that she knew her mom would see, And then, in the middle of the applause, Emily saw her mom. Her mother was standing up in the front row, clapping with a smile on her face. For a moment, everything else disappeared. It was just Emily and her mom, and in that moment, Emily felt as if she had finally been understood. Her mom's eyes were shining, and Emily could see that she wasn't just clapping out of politeness. She was genuinely proud of her. There was something in her eyes that Emily had never seen before. Something that said, "You did it." That was all Emily needed to know. All the self-doubt, all the fear, it was all worth it for this moment. She gave a small bow, feeling a little overwhelmed but also incredibly proud. As she walked off the stage, her legs felt shaky, but it was a different kind of shaking now. The kind that came with accomplishment, not fear. Backstage, she could hear her classmates whispering, but their words didn't bother her anymore. Some of them were complimenting her performance, and others were surprised at how well she'd done. It didn't matter what they thought. Emily knew the truth. She had done something that was important to her, something that mattered to her. And now, it was time to see her mom. When she walked into the lobby, her mom was waiting by the door, a proud smile on her face. She opened her arms, and Emily didn't hesitate. She walked into her mother's embrace, the weight of everything she had carried over the past few weeks falling away. "You were amazing," Maria said, her voice thick with emotion. "I didn't know you could play like that." "I'm so proud of you." Emily looked up at her mom, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I did it for you, Mom," she whispered. "I wanted you to know that this is real for me. Music is more than just a hobby. It's my future." Her mom nodded slowly, her eyes soft. "I see that now. I see how much it means to you. And I'm sorry if I ever doubted you. You were incredible out there." For the first time in a long while, Emily felt like she was truly seen. Her mom had always been there for her, but now, there was a new understanding between them. It wasn't just about Emily playing music, it was about the deep connection she had with it. And for the first time, her mom could see that too. They stood there for a long time, holding on to each other, both silently acknowledging that something had changed between them. Something real and important. Emily had proven to herself and to her mom that she wasn't just playing for fun. She was playing for her future, for her dreams, and for the bond they shared. And with that, Emily knew that this was only the beginning. After the talent show, things started to feel different for Emily. The night had been a whirlwind of emotions, a mix of relief, pride, and joy that lingered long after the final applause had faded. But what really stayed with her was the conversation she had with her mom afterward. It was a moment of connection, one that Emily had been longing for, and it left her with a sense of calm that she hadn't felt before. In the days that followed, Emily's life didn't change dramatically. She still had school, homework, and everything that came with being a teenager, but something deep within her had shifted. She felt more confident now, more sure of herself. The doubts that had clouded her thoughts before the talent show were slowly melting away, replaced with a quiet certainty. One morning, as Emily sat at the breakfast table with her mom, she noticed something that made her smile. Maria, her mother, was humming softly to herself as she cooked breakfast. Emily had never heard her mom hum before, not in that way. It was a light, carefree sound, and it made Emily feel like maybe things were different for her mom, too. Maybe this was the beginning of a new chapter for both of them. As Emily sipped her juice, she looked at her mom, who was stirring a pot of oatmeal. "Mom, do you mind if we talk about something?" Maria glanced up, wiping her hands on her apron. "Of course. What's on your mind?" Emily hesitated for a second, wondering how to approach it. But then, remembering the way her mom had supported her after the talent show, she decided to be open. "I was thinking about something. After the show, I really realized how much I want to keep doing music. Not just as a hobby, but seriously. I want to pursue it. I want to see where I can go with it. Maybe take lessons or even look into a music school later." Her mom paused, and for a second, Emily wasn't sure what her response would be. But then Maria put the spoon down and turned to face her, her eyes soft but intense. "Emily," she said slowly, "I've always wanted the best for you. And I know I've been a little unsure about music in the past. I guess I didn't fully understand how serious you were about it. But after seeing you up there performing your heart out, I get it now. I see how much it means to you." Emily's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected her mom to respond like this. "So, you're okay with it?" she asked cautiously. Maria smiled, and it was the warmest, most genuine smile Emily had seen in a long time. I'm more than okay with it, sweetheart. I'm proud of you. I want you to follow your dreams. Music is a part of who you are, and if it's what makes you happy, then you should go for it. We'll figure it out together. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. Emily couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her mom, the woman who had always told her to be practical, to focus on a real career, was telling her to chase her dreams. It was like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. She didn't need to prove herself anymore. Her mom saw her now, not just as a quiet girl who played music for fun, but as an artist with a future. Thank you, Mom, Emily whispered, feeling the words catch in her throat. She didn't know if she'd ever fully be able to express how much this meant to her, but she knew in that moment that she didn't need to. Her mom understood. In the weeks that followed, Emily took her mom's words to heart. She signed up for music lessons after school, something she'd always wanted to do but had never had the courage to ask for. Her teacher was kind and patient, helping her improve her technique and expand her musical knowledge. Slowly but surely, Emily's skills grew, and with each lesson she felt more like the musician she had always dreamed of being. Her classmates also started to take notice. Some of them came up to her in the hallways, telling her how impressed they had been by her performance at the talent show. The same kids who had laughed at her decision to perform were now asking her for advice on playing instruments or writing music. It was a small change, but to Emily it felt like a victory. She had proven to herself and to everyone else that she wasn't just a quiet girl who liked to play the piano in her bedroom. She was a musician, and she was ready to take the world on. But it wasn't just her classmates who were impressed. Emily's music teacher noticed her progress too. One afternoon, after a particularly difficult lesson, the teacher looked at her with a thoughtful expression. "Emily," he said, "I've been thinking. You have a lot of potential. If you keep practicing and pushing yourself, you could really go far in music. Have you thought about auditioning for a music program? There are schools that specialize in music and you'd be a great fit." The idea struck Emily like a bolt of lightning. She had never really considered it before. It seemed too far out of reach, too big of a dream. But now, hearing it from her teacher, it suddenly felt like a possibility. Maybe this wasn't just about the talent show or about playing for fun. Maybe this was the beginning of a real future in music. Maybe she could do something with it. Something bigger than she had ever imagined. That night, as Emily sat at her piano, she played the piece she had performed at the talent show. The notes were familiar now, flowing from her fingers with ease. But as she played, her mind wasn't just focused on the music. She was thinking about the future, about the possibility of studying music, of becoming a professional musician. She had a vision now, a dream that felt not only possible but within her reach. Her mom watched her from the doorway, a soft smile on her face. "You look so happy," she said, her voice full of warmth. Emily stopped playing and turned to her mom. I think I want to try. I want to audition for a music school." Maria nodded, her eyes shining with pride. "I think you can do it, and I'll be here to support you every step of the way." Emily smiled, feeling the weight of her mom's words settle into her heart. This wasn't just about playing music anymore. It was about following her dreams, and now, with her mom by her side, it felt like anything was possible. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be challenges and setbacks, just like there had been with the talent show. But Emily knew one thing for sure. She was ready to face them. She had the talent, the determination, and, most importantly, the belief in herself that she needed to succeed. And as she sat back down at the piano, playing the familiar notes that had brought her this far, Emily realized that the journey was just beginning. With her mom's support and her own inner strength, she was ready to make her dreams a reality. The applause from the talent show might have faded, but the music would never stop.